In the early years of World War II, Allied planners faced a dangerous reality. German fighters were faster, more agile, and deadly in combat. Instead of trying to match them, Allied intelligence made a risky decision. They chose to bet the air war on raw power, survivability, and overwhelming firepower. The aircraft they chose was the P-47 Thunderbolt. At the time, many believed it was a mistake. History would prove otherwise. In 1942, when the P-47 Thunderbolt first arrived in England, experienced fighter pilots took one look and couldn't believe what they were seeing. The plane was absolutely enormous. It weighed over 10,000 pounds empty, making it twice as heavy as a nimble Spitfire. Ace pilot Don Blakesley famously said, "It ought to be able to dive, it certainly can't climb." British pilots joked that American pilots could take evasive action by unstrapping their harnesses and running around inside the massive cockpit. The top military leaders had serious doubts. How could this 7-ton monster possibly win dogfights against the sleek German Messerschmitt 109s and Focke-Wulfs 190s? The P-47 couldn't turn quickly. It climbed slowly, especially at low and medium altitudes. Its fuel consumption was terrible, limiting its range. Many commanders thought the whole project was a complete disaster waiting to happen. But Allied intelligence officers saw something everyone else missed. They had been carefully studying early combat reports and analyzing the theoretical capabilities of the aircraft. Their data told a very different story than what the skeptics believed. Intelligence units noticed that the P-47 was built around the incredible Pratt & Whitney R-2800 Double Wasp. This massive 18-cylinder radial power plant generated over 2,000 horsepower, with later versions producing even more. The intelligence analysts argued in heated meetings with military brass that this raw power could change everything. They presented a radical new concept called air superiority through attrition. Instead of trying to outmaneuver enemy fighters in traditional dogfights, the P-47 could simply overwhelm them with devastating firepower and incredible durability. The plane's heavy construction and air-cooled engine meant it could absorb massive battle damage and keep flying. Intelligence officers pushed hard for increased P-47 deployment, even when facing strong resistance from pilots who wanted lighter, more agile fighters. What made intelligence so confident? The numbers were stunning. The P-47 carried 8 Browning M250 caliber machine guns, 4 mounted in each wing. This gave it more firepower than any other single-engine fighter in the war. Each gun could fire approximately 400 to 425 rounds. When all 8 guns fired together, the destructive power was absolutely incredible. The plane could carry 2,500 pounds of bombs or 10 high-velocity aircraft rockets under its wings. This versatility meant one aircraft could handle multiple mission types. The R-2800 engine's turbo supercharger system gave the P-47 exceptional high-altitude performance. At 30,000 feet and above, where bomber escorts operated, the Thunderbolt could outperform most enemy fighters. Intelligence analysts knew that protecting bombers at these extreme altitudes would be crucial for winning the air war over Europe. Intelligence officers convinced commanders to think differently about air combat. Traditional fighter doctrine emphasized agility and turning performance, but the war was changing. The Allies needed fighters that could escort heavy bombers deep into Germany, absorb punishment from anti-aircraft fire during ground attacks, and carry heavy bomb loads to destroy enemy infrastructure. The P-47's designers had created something that didn't fit the old rules, and intelligence recognized its potential. The plane's incredible dive speed became a tactical advantage. When P-47 pilots needed to escape danger, they could dive faster than any German fighter could follow. This boom and zoom tactic let Thunderbolt pilots attack from high altitude, make one devastating pass, and escape before enemy fighters could respond. Intelligence reports from early combat missions confirmed this approach worked brilliantly. The paradigm was shifting from elegant aerial ballet to brutal, effective combat. As the war progressed, the P-47 found its true calling. Its rugged construction and powerful armament made it perfect for close air support missions. The heavy fighter could dive down through intense anti-aircraft fire, unleash its guns and rockets on enemy positions, and survive damage that would have destroyed other aircraft. Pilots loved the Thunderbolt for ground attack work. One pilot from the 365th Fighter Group said it landed better on its belly than it did on wheels, describing the plane's incredible crash landing capabilities. Lieutenant Neil Worley from the same unit explained that when forced to belly land, the massive radial engine acted like a battering ram, knocking down trees and obstacles. From D-Day until Victory in Europe Day, P-47 pilots claimed destruction of 86,000 railroad cars, 9,000 locomotives, 6,000 armored fighting vehicles, and 68,000 trucks. These numbers show how the P-47 became the ultimate ground attack platform, exactly as intelligence had predicted. Despite initial range limitations, the P-47 proved surprisingly effective as a bomber escort. When external drop tanks were added, the Thunderbolt could protect bomber formations deep into enemy territory. Starting in the spring of 1943, P-47s began escorting heavy bombers over Nazi-occupied Europe. The aircraft's durability was crucial here. German fighters would often focus their attacks on the bombers, but when they engaged the P-47 escorts, they discovered these American fighters could take tremendous punishment. Luftwaffe ace Heinz Baer admitted that the P-47 could absorb an astounding amount of lead and had to be handled very carefully. The Thunderbolt's 8 machine guns and superior high-altitude performance meant that once P-47 pilots learned proper tactics, they could inflict heavy losses on German interceptors. Based on what intelligence officers had predicted, the P-47 was protecting bombers not just by shooting down German fighters, but by being so tough that enemy pilots thought twice before attacking formations with Thunderbolt escorts. Pilots nicknamed the P-47 the Jug, short for Juggernaut. As they gained experience with the massive fighter, many pilots grew to love it. Robert Johnson of the 56th Fighter Group became one of America's top aces flying the P-47, scoring 27 aerial victories. The 56th Fighter Group claimed almost 1,000 enemy aircraft destroyed over the course of the war, more than any other fighter unit in the 8th Air Force. They achieved this flying exclusively in Thunderbolts, even when other groups switched to the longer-range P-51 Mustang. This suggests the pilots had tremendous confidence in their aircraft. First Lieutenant Worley stated, "There isn't a P-47 pilot alive who wouldn't elect to belly one in rather than bail out," showing the trust pilots had in the plane's ability to protect them even in crashes. The comfortable, roomy cockpit that had been mocked initially became an advantage, giving pilots more space to operate controls and better visibility once the bubble canopy was introduced on later models. The P-47's presence forced the German Luftwaffe to adapt its tactics significantly. German fighter pilots could no longer simply ignore Allied fighter escorts and focus exclusively on bombers. The Thunderbolt's heavy armament and durability meant every encounter with P-47s was dangerous. Based on what we know from combat records, German pilots learned to respect the P-47's dive speed and firepower. They developed new tactics to avoid the Thunderbolt's strengths, but this defensive thinking meant they were less effective at intercepting bombers. The psychological impact was substantial. When German pilots saw formations of Thunderbolts escorting bomber streams, they knew they faced a tough fight. This suggests the P-47's very presence changed the dynamics of air combat over Europe, forcing the Luftwaffe to be more cautious and defensive, exactly the kind of air superiority through attrition that intelligence analysts had envisioned. The introduction of P-47 escorts dramatically improved the survival rates of Allied bomber crews. Before effective fighter escorts, bomber losses were sometimes catastrophic. In the infamous Schweinfurt-Regensburg raid of August 1943, 60 bombers were lost out of 376 dispatched, a 16% loss rate. While P-47s provided partial escort on this mission, their limited range meant they could only accompany bombers to the German border. Once drop tanks extended the P-47's range and tactics improved, bomber losses decreased substantially. By the war's end, P-47 pilots flew over 746,000 combat sorties, suffering a remarkably low loss rate of just 0.7% per mission. The Thunderbolt achieved an impressive aerial kill ratio of 4.6 to 1, meaning for every P-47 lost in air combat, more than 4 enemy aircraft were destroyed. This could imply that intelligence analysts' faith in the aircraft was justified by the statistical evidence of its success in protecting bombers and destroying enemy air power. Over 15,600 P-47 Thunderbolts were manufactured during the war, making it one of the most produced American fighters. The aircraft served in every theater of operations except Alaska. In Europe, it became the backbone of tactical air support for ground forces. In the Pacific, upgraded P-47N models with extended range escorted B-29 bombers on long-range missions against Japan. The Thunderbolt's contribution to Allied victory was immense. It destroyed over 7,000 enemy aircraft in the European theater alone, with more than half shot down in air-to-air combat. The plane's success validated the bold gamble that intelligence officers had made. They bet on raw power, rugged construction, and overwhelming firepower instead of elegant maneuverability. History proved them absolutely right. The P-47 wasn't pretty, it wasn't graceful, but it was devastatingly effective. The P-47 Thunderbolt's success changed military thinking about fighter aircraft design. It proved that heavy, powerful fighters could be just as effective as lightweight, agile ones when properly employed. This concept influenced post-war fighter development. The modern A-10 Thunderbolt II, nicknamed the Warthog, takes its name directly from the P-47 and shares its philosophy of rugged construction, heavy armament, and excellent ground attack capabilities. The P-47 demonstrated that versatility matters more than specialization. A fighter that could excel at bomber escort, air-to-air combat, and ground attack provided more value than one optimized for a single role. This led to the development of multi-role fighters that dominate modern air forces. But perhaps the most important lesson was about intelligence's role in challenging conventional wisdom. The officers who advocated for the P-47 looked past surface appearances and analyzed the data. They saw potential where others saw problems. They championed an unconventional solution that ultimately won the war. The story of the P-47 Thunderbolt reminds us that sometimes the biggest winners don't look like champions at first. Allied intelligence took a massive risk betting on this heavyweight fighter when everyone wanted something smaller and sleeker, but their careful analysis, bold advocacy, and willingness to challenge conventional thinking paid off in ways that changed the course of history. The next time you see footage of World War II air combat, remember the 7-ton giant that everyone doubted. Remember the intelligence officers who believed in it, and remember that sometimes raw power really can win the day. If you enjoyed learning about this incredible piece of aviation history, please give this video a like, leave a comment sharing your thoughts about the P-47, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating World War II stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.